What do Aunt Gracie, vapes, and a phone all have in common? They all die eventually. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about Gracie or your vapes. But what I can do is help you out with your phones. My friends over at Ampere have helped us out here. You see, Ampere have an amazing range of wireless chargers that slip right into your pocket and just stick to your phone. They're completely magnetic. You forget they're there half the time. And before you know it, your phone's fully charged again. So no more stressing on when you're out clubbing. No more worrying about when you need to book a table. No more worrying when you're trying to pick up from Moe. All you have to do is go to ampere.com, use promo code Luca. You get a sweet discount and enjoy endless wireless charging. But yeah, like I was saying, I was watching back our old episode maybe like a year ago and I was just like, I don't know if you have this experience when you watch back old fights, but I was listening to myself talk and I wanted to vomit like every 3 seconds.
That's when I listen to myself talk in general. But, yeah, I do. I have that with fights. Yeah. I watch it back and I think that it was terrible. Yeah, if you compare it to later ones as well. Yeah, definitely.
Like you see that progress just go over time and you kind of see yourself evolve, but you don't notice it in the moment. It's not until you look back. Yeah. Sometimes
you wonder if you're even improving at all. And then once you compare like your current self with your old self, then you see it, I think.
Yeah. But see, the thing is with you, like your progress is very trackable. Like you've competed on the international stage, you've competed against the world's best, you've competed, you know, in every arena possible and you've been dominant.
Yeah.
You just went up against Josephine Newson at the UAE Warriors. You were on the main card, you know, on a huge promotion. You're up against the pound for pound #1 in Europe. And this was kind of seen as a fight where you could set yourself up to a UFC spot.
Yeah.
So the progress there is very trackable, don't you think?
Yeah, the progress is trackable by the time the fight rolls around. But for the like 8 weeks during camp, I think because you're doing so much every day, it's hard to track, and your training partners are such high level as well. It's hard to track if you're getting any better at certain things. Because a lot of my training partners are significantly better than me, like especially with grappling.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I feel like week 1 of camp, I can't beat them. Week 7 of camp, I still can't beat them because they're so good. Like I've made improvements. I've maybe I haven't gotten submitted as quickly, or I have gotten them down 1 out of 5 attempts. But it's hard to track the progress when someone has been doing it for so much longer than you and is so much better. You don't know yet if you've improved. And it's only when you go test yourself against someone with the same weight, the same experience that you can find out. When you're trying to grapple like 65, 70 kilo males all day, every day, it's hard to see improvement.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's the element of your game that you want to focus on the most, is the grappling? Like, do you feel like the ground game is really where you will see the most bang for buck, or are you just looking at it more holistically?
I'm looking at all of it. We did a lot of work on striking recently as well, but I think I was significantly behind in grappling compared to striking. And for that particular fight, we had a plan to push a grappling, to push the grappling. So we worked a lot on getting people down. I felt like I have a really, what I feel in MMA is a strong top game. So if I can get on top, then I'm very confident that I can finish the fight.
Yeah.
It's that middle ground between the striking and getting them on the ground is where I really had to do a lot of work on.
Yeah. I mean, and we saw that in the fight. We saw that you, especially when she would initiate clinches, because Josephine, you know, all credit to her, is an excellent Muay Thai fighter. Like that's her comfort zone. That's where she wants to be. So what I saw in the fight is that she would, you know, strike 3 or 4 times, try and close the distance and get you into the clinch. But what I don't think that she was prepared for was the fact that you were so strong and so physically dominant that when you were in the clinch, you just got her up against the cage and exerted your will.
Yeah.
Like you were very good in those clinch situations where she wanted you. She wanted to throw those knees. She wanted to throw short range elbows, and you invited that, and you landed some like very sweet takedowns off of it in all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I got there. It was securing it was hard. Her takedown defense was very good. Got to give her credit for that. And she is very physically strong too. Strongest girl I fought. So yeah, credit to her for that. But I felt like, yeah, I could get in close and I could grapple with her and I could clench with her. And I got her down a couple times, but securing her was like holding like a fish, like a wet fish.
Yeah.
Like she's a great scrambler. Yeah, and you've only got kind of 15 minutes sounds like a long time, but for like to me it really doesn't feel like a long time, you know. And you've got to like get someone down, hold them down in 15 minutes, and I know that she knew I wanted that as well. She knew I was gonna come in there with a grappling agenda.
She actually said that in an interview.
Yeah.
She said like I'm prepared for her to try and take me to the ground. I'm prepared for her to try and out grapple me.
Yeah. And
so that was the game plan going in.
The game plan was to mix up the striking and the grappling for the whole time.
Okay.
Up, down, so she didn't know where I was going to go, to get her to strike with me so that when she did, I could duck under and take her down. I had practiced that for 8 weeks, and by the end of camp, I was pretty good at that game plan. I felt confident in it. But I think when you think about it, like, yes, my plan was to go in and grapple her, but because we felt that her being on the ground was her weakest point.
Right.
So the idea was, why fight her strongest point of striking when I can try and fight her weakest point?
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, because I believe that the ground game is her weak point, her takedown defense is obviously on point.
Right.
Obviously.
Because it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. Everyone wants, she wants to strike with everyone, so she's got to be prepared to get taken down. And while I think the game plan was good, I wasn't able to execute it fully on the night. So yeah, there's a lot to take away from that. But I believe the game plan was correct. But like, it's not, you know, she's not some, you know, 2-4, some 3-3, you know, she's a world-class fighter. And I didn't think at any point it would be easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, credit to her where it's due, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, just the camp that she comes out of, right? Like one of the best gyms in Sweden, home to Khamzat Chimaev, home to Gustafsson. I mean, these guys are elite caliber out of Sweden, and like I said before, she was the number 1 ranked in Europe.
Yeah.
So you weren't going up against no chum. And I think, you know, it's full credit to you. The fact that not only did you compete on that international stage, on that international level, but you were extremely close. Like,
that kind of makes it sting more. Because that's what I wanted, right? Like, we looked at her and we looked at her team, and we're All-Stars Training Center, you know, comes up. Like, you've got everything. Everything is funded for you. You come from one of the best teams in the world. You've got everything.
Yeah.
And we're just this little, you know, team in Hornsby with no financial backing. We've done it all ourselves.
Big shout out to Carrioti.
Yeah, big shout out to my team, and everyone rallied for that fight for me. And that's why I wanted to, it's part of why I wanted so desperately was to win, was to show everyone what we can do with a quarter of the resources that these teams have.
Yeah.
And we didn't fall short. I made some mistakes. So it's not like we're not on the same level of them. I simply just made a couple little mistakes and got the wrong end of a split decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are on the same level as them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, that's a testament to you and your commitment and your activity. Like, there aren't many strawweights that are as active as you. There's, you know, a couple names here or there, but I think you've been pushing and pushing and pushing your own physical body to its limits for so long now that you're just starting to reap those rewards. And even though you didn't get the result on the night, you did get to showcase who Jacinta Austin is in one of the biggest promotions that you've ever fought on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think although it was a loss, I'm still, like, it's only been 2.5-3 weeks since we came back. So I'm still in the process of, like, unpacking it and accepting it and finding exactly what needs to change. Because when you lose, you start pointing the finger at everything in the camp. Was this wrong? Was that wrong? And you start really digging into what must have went wrong. But nothing went wrong. Like, there were things that I need to improve, obviously, which even after I win fights, there are things I need to improve.
So if nothing went wrong, what do you think could have been done better?
So with this camp, like, we knew that Josephine was a much higher level opponent than people I'd fought before. So we pushed the training camp a lot harder than I've ever done. So probably 4 weeks into camp, I kind of felt like I was like broken a little bit. Like the workload was so high. The wrestling, the sparring, the live work was so much that I feel like I lost a lot of my fire.
Right.
Like I just got broken down physically and mentally every day. We adjusted that partway through because my coaches could see that I wasn't performing because I was so broken down every day, like overworked every day. And we adjusted that a few weeks out and I started performing.
Was that more on a physical or a mental front?
I think it was both. I think it was physically like just putting too much in, like the amount of work I was doing with wrestlers and grapplers that were bigger and stronger and just getting kind of broken down every day, physically broke me. And then because I wasn't performing, like I kind of mentally broke a little bit from it as well. And then, once we got about 4 weeks out, we changed it up and reduced it because I wasn't performing.
Right.
So we've learnt kind of from that camp that we need to find a middle.
Yeah, it's
ground.
a really interesting dynamic because on one hand, you want to push yourself to the very physical limit so that on the day you're as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to go in with confidence. You want to go in with the hunger and desire. And if you are, I mean, I know the feeling at a very small scale as to what it's like to get your ass absolutely handed to you in sparring, and it is the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
Like there have been times where I've gone back to my car and just broken out crying because I'm like, I was helpless in that situation. I had no chance. So I can't imagine what it's like when you're going up against, men that are significantly heavier and, have trained in one discipline for longer than you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot every day. And if you're like losing every day, it's hard to fire up. It's hard to, what I feel for me, everyone is different, but if I can't see like at least a small path to victory, I lose my ability to fight for the victory. So when I was getting like beaten down every day against people I knew that I can't beat, I know that I can't beat the brown belt who's been doing jiu-jitsu for like 8 years. I know that I can't.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of lost my like fight a little bit. And then when we adjusted things, I got my fight back a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just kind of learned, and we didn't want to, like when we got the fight 7 weeks out, I was like, I need to win this.
Yeah.
And if I lose and look back and say that I should have done more, that's going to hurt a lot. So every day we're pushing for more, pushing harder every day.
Of course.
Because you don't want that regret of not working hard enough.
Yeah.
But there's a middle ground between like completely breaking yourself down, diminishing returns. I was getting nothing back from it, just getting disheartened and just getting broken down too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke, you told me that in the lead up to your big boxing event, you were fighting on the undercard of a huge boxing event that happened in Australia. And I remember you specifically told me that, in the lead up to that, you were like very nervous. You wanted to throw up. You're feeling sick in the stomach. Was it like that this time around fighting on UAE?
No, it was the complete opposite.
Really?
Yeah, which then you start reading into that as well. But I'm like, why was I so calm? No, it was complete opposite. I felt all week, I felt amazing. I felt like I was doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, being in a nice hotel on the other side of the world, doing podcasts about fighting, doing photos, doing interviews, like being part of Fight Week felt like I was great. And then when we got to the event, no nerves, nothing. My warm-up was perfect. I was hitting perfect. I was doing the takedowns perfect. Like I felt so calm and just relaxed and at peace. And normally when I walk out, it's hard to kind of decipher everything with the noise and the lights and the music and you're kind of a bit shook up. But this one is completely present. Like it was so present. All I could hear was my coach. Couldn't hear anyone else. Was so calm. And yeah, I felt really confident that I was going to just find a way in there to win.
Yeah. I noticed in your walkout, like before you got into the cage, like you took a second and you like got into your hands and knees and like said something. Like what did you say? What did you say in that moment?
So in the moment, like I just try and center myself before I get in the cage, like between the warm up and everyone rushing you around to different areas backstage, you can get a bit overstimulated. So I just try and close my eyes and center for a second. And what I actually say is what my first kickboxing coach used to say to me before I fight. He tells me to fight with my head and my heart. Right. So that's why I don't know if it's even noticeable. It touched my head and my heart before I go in.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a little, I guess, tribute to my first coach. Yeah. He always used to tell me to fight with my head, so to fight smart, and to fight with my heart, so to like fight my heart out every time I'm in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think it's a very like effective way of just centering yourself and making sure that you are in that moment, because fighting as aggressive and intense as it might be and it might seem to the outside world, it is very much just it's a sequence of events. It's a sequence of processes. And if you are thinking about a punch that landed 3 punches ago, you're going to fall out of that sequence and you're not going to be able to predict what's going on next. So the more present fighters can be in the moment, generally speaking, the better they'll do.
Yeah.
I think, ironically enough, I think Nate Diaz is like a perfect example of that. Like that guy just is unfazed by everything. You can land whatever you want on him and he just keeps coming forward, keeps feinting, keeps applying pressure. And I think that's what actually breaks down his opponents. It's like I've thrown the kitchen sink at this guy and he's just still there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I feel like before every fight I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down. I'm going to just get in their face for the entire fight.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where this is the first fight where that hasn't completely worked for me. And I think as you get to the higher level, like these girls aren't going to just back down. Like I always say to people, I'm going to stand and fight in your face for 15 minutes, but she's going to do that as well. Yeah. Especially like once you start getting to these higher levels, there's no, the girls aren't going to back down. No way. Like I could feel like you're like your knee or your elbow, someone you hear like a grunt come out of them. Yeah. Yeah. But and normally you might feel the next girl back down from that slightly, but not Josephine. She just came harder, and that's how it's going to be. You know what? Fighting Josephine, it was exactly, and everyone was saying it the whole lead up, and she was saying, and everyone was saying, fighting Josephine was basically just me fighting me. So we had the same height, we had the same reach, we had the same background in K1 in Japan, we had Muay Thai background. We both moved to MMA around 2.5 years ago. Like I was fighting me. Really, and we're both very like aggressive in the way we fight, very similar styles. So yeah, that was kind of cool. I had to fight myself to get to the next level.
Round by round, how did you feel the fight progressing? Like, did you at any point in time did you look over to your corner and they said like, "This is like we need to pick up the pace on this one. You're behind on points," or like, how did you feel as the fight progressed?
So round 1, I wasn't sure. I knew it was definitely close, but I wasn't sure who won. And I did ask. I always ask who won. I just like to know. And my coach had said he wasn't sure it was close. Yeah. So I go out with the mindset of I need to, pick it up, do more. Round 2, I don't know if you remember, I trip. So I trip backwards. And that's when I land against the cage in almost a mounted position. And I freak out that I had tripped and I turn over and give my back. Big mistake. So while I feel very confident.
You slipped while throwing a kick, didn't you?
I slipped while throwing a knee.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I threw a knee and as I stepped back down, I slipped backwards. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I landed in against the cage in sort of a mounted position. And I turned and rolled over and gave my back instead of correctly, maybe moving back to full guard or half guard and working my way up correctly. Yeah. I turned and gave my back and I felt very confident in my back defense, which is probably why I did it. I was like, I'm going to turn and give my back. She won't choke me. I'll get up. But the amount of time it took me to get out of that back control, I very likely lost the round. I did get out and tried to get some ground and pound going, but it's kind of late by that point. So round 2, I assume I very easily lost.
And full credit to her. I felt she did a very good job at neutralizing you when she was on her back. Like she didn't give you space or posture to actually land anything. Like you just had that position and then you just like trying to figure out a way in, and just off her back, she was just exceptional. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that from her at all.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no like space to land clean ground and pound. she was good at getting her feet on the hips, getting me away, that sort of stuff. Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
You got to give her credit. So that's my mistake there, and I lost that round for that. Round 3. So round 3, I'm thinking I'm not sure about the first. I definitely lost the second, so I'm going to have to try and finish this fight in the third. And my coach said that as well. He's like, you've got to take her down. You've got to choke her. So all camp, most of my submissions do come by rear naked choke. So I'm like, all right, I got to get her down, get on her back and choke
Well, that's how you beat Evelyn, didn't you?
Nyreen?
Nyreen, sorry.
Yeah, Nyreen. Yeah. So that's the one I'm most confident in. Especially when you're a strawweight female, it's very unlikely you're going to knock them out, right? So it's very unlikely that you're going to have that one punch knockout power. Very unlikely. So I can go out there and try and outstrike her and maybe get a decision win or maybe drop her, or I can go out and try and take her down and choke her and guarantee that I win. So that's what I went with, and that's what we went with in the moment, is to try and keep trying to get her down and keep trying to get to the back and finish it. And yeah, in 5 minutes I couldn't get it done. So the third round, I thought that I had won the third round. Lost the second, and I wasn't sure about the first.
You ended the round very strong as well. You ended with some brutal elbows, and it was just like, I was like, oh, okay, like she had that like big moment. You know? I think that's what everyone at home was waiting for. It's like the fight was close enough that it was whoever had the bigger moments was more likely going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I think about that as well, is I should have had those bigger moments earlier. Like round 1 when I'm holding her against the cage. I should be striking. I should be doing damage there.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to wait to the third one to really switch on and go, all right, I'm going to win this. I should be like that from the first round.
Yeah.
So for third round, when I thought I was very likely losing, is when it brought like more out of me, and I should be able to do that earlier. So that's what I need to do next time, is have more intention from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure. I went over and asked my coach after. He said, I don't think we won that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He wasn't sure. So yeah, and then when they read,
was that hard to hear in the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I was so I believed so strongly that I was gonna that I actually believed I was really gonna finish her. So the whole camp, I believed that. I believed that I'd worked so hard, and I also have this certain faith in myself that I always find a way to win, because I do. I have in the past. So I thought, why is this going to be different? But on this night, yeah, felt a little bit short. So yeah, when they read the decision, and my coach had already said that he didn't think we had won, so I wasn't too surprised by the time they read the decision. But yeah, there was so much riding on it, probably more in our minds than really in legitimately. There was so much riding on that win, so much we thought we were going to get after winning that, which you feel like you lost all of that when you lost the fight. So
what did you feel like was riding on that fight?
Well, I thought submitting or finishing Josephine would be my ticket to the UFC, because she was on the road to UFC. And if I could get a dominant win over her, she won on the road to UFC. So if I could get a dominant win over her, I thought it was going to be my ticket to the UFC. And the feedback we had from them previously is that I needed to beat a credible opponent. So Josephine was the credible opponent that I needed to finish. So that's what I thought I was going to get from this fight. But when you lose, you spend a lot of time unpacking it, and I'm still in the process of unpacking it now. It's only been, I think, 2.5 weeks. But in every fight I've had, obviously I've made mistakes and errors in there. I gave my back up in the last fight as well. So I think when I sit here and think about it, it's better now that I learned this via split decision than go to the UFC and learn it by getting choked out on my debut. So I think we talked about this last time. If it's not my time right now, that's okay. It will be, it still will be, but it's not my time right now. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think, it's hard to stomach those pills, right? It's hard to take that. This was my golden ticket. This was my opportunity. This was my chance to get into the big leagues, and someone else got it.
Yeah.
You know, that I can't imagine how that feels, especially when this is something that you work so hard towards for so long. Like, we aren't talking 1 or 2 years of sacrifice. We're talking a lifetime.
Yeah.
We're talking a lifetime. And because it is now, mixed martial arts is so competitive, and there are so many people trying to get into the UFC or trying to get into one championship, or so many people trying to get into Bellator. I think it's been really interesting to see like how the strategies have changed as well as an approach. So, you know, I often say to fighters, like, there is a very strong, to make it into the UFC, you need 2 things. You need the technical skills, which are 100%, you have to have them. If you want to get into the UFC, you have to be a good fighter. You have to beat people. You have to beat people of significance or credibility, as they put it. But you also need the communication skills. And I think that's where a lot of fighters kind of neglect, or they don't put as much attention to, because it's a weird thing. It's not something you learn in training camps. It's not something you learn when you're rolling with monsters, or when you're sparring, or you're hitting the heavy bag. It's, you know, often mixed martial arts is associated very deeply with like a respect element and a humility element, and that's because the sport is so brutal, and you have to be humble and you have to be respectful when you fight. But at the end of the day, the UFC is a business. The UFC is an industry, and it's a titan, and nothing makes title fights faster than high pay-per-view numbers, right? Like, we saw that with John Jones recently. You know, the guy comes, and granted, John Jones has the track record, he has the history, but he was the biggest draw card for the heavyweight division. So he jumps everyone, he gets the title shot straight away. You see it with McGregor all the time. He gets to cherry pick his opponents, and he gets to, you know, get title shots or get runs to title shots when he hasn't been active in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And you also see it on the other end, where fighters are kind of, they're not as good on the communication end, and because of that, they really have to wait their turn for the fight. So I'm curious to know, because you have been so exposed to media now, and because you have been on so many podcasts and so many interviews, and you do have this brand of Jacinta Austin that you are developing, how do you approach the media, and how do you approach creating buzz around you, as well as, you know, continually winning and continually improving that record?
At this stage, I kind of, I haven't put as much thought into the personality that I want to be. I'm kind of just being me and what comes to me. Most people seem to like it. I'm sure some people don't. But at this point, like, I'm just trying to put my head down and focus and win, because I think we kind of talked about it last time, is that everything else that I get is going to come from winning. So I'm just putting my head down and training and making sure I win. Didn't happen last time, but it's going to happen next time. Yeah. Yeah. And everything else that I want to get was going to come with that. The attention I want, the media I want, the sponsorships, everything that I want to represent is going to come from me winning. It's not going to come from me creating this personality online and then not being able to back it up, because honestly, if I don't have the wins and the success and the skill, don't particularly care for the rest that comes with it. So I want all that other stuff to be like hyped off my fighting. If I'm not a successful fighter, I don't really have any interest in being like an Instagram personality. Yeah. So for me, it's all about my fighting, and I think the more that I do like podcasts and interviews, people will get to see another side of my personality. And the more I fight, the more podcasts I'm going to do, the more exposure I'm going to get. But it's all, it all comes back to winning the fights and performing for me. Yeah. No, I hear you. Like, you always want to be authentic with the people that are watching you. Yeah. Right? Like, you never want to feel like, oh, this isn't what I would do. You know, and I think what the most successful people in this industry have been able to do is find that element of their personality that people really are drawn towards, and then put that thing on steroids and run that and make that as big as possible, right? Like Chael Sonnen is the perfect example. The guy is the perfect heel. He's the perfect villain. He calls out every fighter. He's undisputed Uncle Chael, and everyone loves him for it.
But he still has a code. Like, he still has, like, he's not going to swear. He's not going to talk about people's families. He's not going to do certain things. Like, I think there are boundaries which you can put yourself in. But, you know, I get it from both ends. Like, if you do look at it from a purist perspective, then it's like, yeah, I just want my fight record to speak for me. But at the same time, I get the business end of it where they say, well, the fight record's exceptional, but we need to sell pay-per-views. We need to sell tickets. We need people to be paying attention to you. And that's what's going to get you the big bucks. Like, let's be honest. Valentina Shevchenko should be a main event. She should be her own card, right? Mm-hmm. She's the best female fighter we've seen in a very long time and possibly one of the greatest of all times.
Yeah.
She's absolutely ferocious. She should
most
be.
title defenses, I believe.
I think so, up until this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just unbelievable fighter, and yet she's still putting as co-main with John Jones.
Yeah, I think I don't know how accurate it was, but something came out about the pay from the show. Was it last weekend or the weekend before?
It was last weekend.
Yeah,
no, weekend before. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and her pay was like significantly under the prelims card. Her pay was under the guys fighting on the prelims, and she's defended her title however many. I don't even know how many times now. And she's one of the best fighters in the world. But yeah, her pay was significantly lower than the middle ranking males on the card. I was baffled. I don't know how accurate it was, but if it's accurate, it's pretty disappointing. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a struggle. And, you know, I think when you've got, with all due respect to the GOAT, but when you've got coked out, juiced up, hitting pregnant ladies with a Bentley John Jones earning 6 times the amount that you are.
There's been so many great memes. There's been so many good ones. I've had so much fun with it. So many good ones.
He's, I don't know, I feel like he's just, everything about him kind of encompasses the UFC, right?
Yeah.
Like, excellent fighter, questionable history, but we don't look at that because this is what's going to sell tickets, right?
But it does interest us, even if we want to deny it. We're interested because of his personality, because of the things he's done. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of gone on this like Christian, like I've changed, I've repented, and everyone's like, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
But I think that's what it is. I think that's why John Jones gets paid what he gets paid, because like Valentina and John Jones, respective to their weight division, have the best skills that you could possibly ask for, right? So this isn't a question about skills or capability anymore. Mm-hmm. This is a question of marketability. Yeah. And I think where you've got John Jones in the past has played the villain very well, especially when he went up against DC. And you've got Valentina, who for the most part has been pretty respectful, has been pretty...
Yeah, she doesn't say much.
She doesn't say much. No. And I think that might actually be the problem. I feel like it might be worthwhile for her to either play the heel or play the hero. It's got to be one or the other. You've either got to turn the person that you're up against into the villain or turn yourself into the villain. Yeah. Because we need story arcs. We need narrative. Why is this fight important? Why should I spend $60 to watch this?
Yeah. No, that's very true. Very true. I think just whatever comes from it, whether you play the good or the bad, has to come organically. Yeah. Yeah. So I think with my Japan fight, I had to play the villain. But it just happened that way, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you have to play the villain?
Because you're coming in from another country to their country, to their hometown. Also, they had asked me to play more of a villain.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. For they made their little hype videos and stuff, and they'd asked me to like portray myself a certain way.
How did you find that?
Not so bad, because we didn't go over the top. Like, I think I've naturally got a bit of a, you know, CUNT in me anyway. I've naturally got a bit of a, like, you know, a dog in me anyway. So I felt pretty comfortable playing it, because it's not entirely fake. Like, when it comes to fighting another girl, like, I do want to hurt you. And I do want to come into your hometown and embarrass you in front of everyone and take what's yours. That's part of fighting. Yeah. So for me,
bars. Jacinta's got bars.
Yeah. And same with Josephine. Like, we were going back and forth online for a little bit. And I think in that scenario, like, she was a bit of the dog, and I was playing the nice guy.
What happened online with Josephine?
Oh, just like back and forth. I don't know how it started. I can't actually say how it started. I think it was like her printing out photos of me and putting them like all over the gym.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it started like that.
She made a shrine of you. How sweet of her.
And then she was like pulling up all old photos of me from like 2017, and she's like, oh, like Jacinta's fat, she's not gonna make weight, like she's not 52 kilos, you know, stuff like that. So then I'm like, and it's my personality as well. It's like, I'm not just gonna sit there and let you bully me. And same with my team, we're like, we're not gonna be like fucking bullied by you guys. So we fight back. And then there was a little bit of back and forth, and then she gets into it with my
So what dirt did you pick up on Josephine?
Hey?
What dirt did you pick up on Josephine?
I didn't pick up any dirt, but I was just we were watching her like, obviously she pushes this agenda of being like a crazy good striker, and she pushes this agenda of no one can stand with my striking. But bullshit, like if I fought her in a K1 fight, I would definitely stand with her striking. The reason we went the way we did is because we were like, the ground is weaker than the striking, so let's go with that. But pushing this agenda of like phenomenal crazy good striking that no one can stand with, we would kind of like find little bits of her fights and post them and be like, not very world class, you know. Yeah, it was a bit of playful back and forth, but it was playful to us. She got angry, but yeah. Anyway, the point of it, I think like your role, it just happens, like it organically happens some way. Yeah, see, that's interesting, but I have to push back. I think, you know, the biggest names and the most notorious names in the UFC are the ones where people associate like chaos with them. You know, when you see Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor throwing water bottles at each other, or you see, you know, there's been so many. John Jones destroying an entire press conference with DC. Like, those are the moments in the UFC that tend to go viral. And I think just for any upcoming fighters, the more viral moments that you can have, the more buzz that you can create around yourself, you're kind of carving your own lane into the motherland. You know, but here's the problem. If you just do that, if you just run your mouth, if you just talk shit, and if you just create chaos around you, but you don't have the technical skills to back it, then you're screwed. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Then you're an idiot. Yeah. I think also remembering these guys are in the UFC, you know? They have millions of eyes on them. We're fighting at, you know, UAE warriors. It doesn't have so much.
Don't disrespect UAE warriors.
No disrespect, but you know, we're still coming up. So I think you gotta earn your right to act a certain way as well. Yeah.
So in light of the recent loss against Josephine, you've had a drop off in the rankings, which I'm sure you're aware of. So you were pound for pound number 1. Now you've dropped to pound for pound number 3. Firstly, how much attention do you pay to those rankings?
Since I sort of like have paid more attention to them in the past year, I feel like they have no credibility now. If you look now, they've got some boxes in there as well. Okay. Yeah, it's really weird how it works. I'm not too sure how it works. However, 2 girls that are ranked above pound for pound, right? 2 girls that are ranked above me. Number 1, I've beaten. Number 2, I regularly beat her ass on a Saturday. So, number 3, they're both 5 kilos heavier than me. Number 4, I think neither of them will ever make it to a stage bigger than they're on now, if I look at them technically. So I'm not so bothered by it anymore. I was at first. I was like, how is someone I've beaten ranked above me? I get she's been very active. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't pay. I don't pay too much attention to it now. I believe I'm going to a much bigger place than them.
So you have no interest in fighting either of the 2 just to kind of win back that spot?
No. I don't have any interest in moving up 5 kilos. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of it's a big why to me. Like, why am I going to go disadvantage myself for no gain? To beat one that I've already beaten, or to beat one that doesn't really have any, I guess, nothing for me to gain from it. So why am I going to move up 5 kilos for that? To go back to fight on the local scene? I don't think so.
Fair enough. Yeah. Do you think you're the best female fighter in Australia?
Like mixed martial artist or
female
boxer
fighter.
or
It's a yes or no
I mean, there are
question.
definitely people that are technically better than me, but like at certain things, if you're going to break down like all the elements of MMA, there are definitely people that are better than me. Do I think I'm the best?
Okay, who in Australia right now at your weight class would get into a cage with you and beat you?
No one.
Okay, so you're the best female fighter in Australia.
Yep. Let's put it that way.
Own your shit.
Yeah. I'm going to say that with confidence.
Yeah.
I think I'm not stuck, but I'm in a middle ground at the moment between being significantly better than the Australian girls and realizing the difference outside of Australia. I'm in the middle ground at the moment. I think that with a couple adjustments, I definitely hang with all the girls overseas. Yeah. And I don't see any gain for me to fight in a heavier division here in Australia on a smaller show against lesser opponents. It's not gonna do much for me.
So how do you go about picking your next fight?
So I have like 3 offers. We got them as soon as we got back. We got the invitation to go back to UAE, and then we also have a couple offers in Japan.
Okay.
So I'm gonna wait till I'm back to sparring, which should be next week, and then my team will pick which fight is better for us.
How much weight do you have over that? Like if you say, for example, I want that person.
Yeah. Like
that option number 2 right there, I want to beat that person. Is it your say at the end of the day, or does it have to go through the whole team?
We kind of make a decision together. My team will point out the pros and cons of each opponent and like the strategies between each opponent. I don't actually know who the opponents are at this stage.
Right.
Because we've not put any, like one of them is in 4 weeks. So, but then there's an opportunity to fight that same person in 8 weeks and then 12 weeks. Like they have a show every, Pancreas has a show every month or so. So the option is there. And while I'm not back to sparring and there's so many offers, there's also one in Prague as well against a girl on Octagon. Yeah. So there's so many offers. So since I'm not even back to sparring yet, I'm not paying too much attention to which one I want. I just know there's going to be one soon. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get myself back to like full training, and then we'll sit down and we'll have a look at all the opponents and their records, strengths, weaknesses, shows, dates, and pick one. Yeah.
How do you see the UFC roster right now for your weight class? Like when you look at it and you look at the list of fighters that are on there, how do you see it? How would you position yourself there?
I think that I definitely beat all the newer girls and the lower level girls. I feel that Josephine would beat all the newer girls, all the lower level girls. And I think with a couple years more development, then I'll hang with the higher girls. I was thinking we were talking about this the other day, and because I was talking about how like all these things that I expected to go for me. Like someone I really look up to is Casey O'Neill. Mm-hmm. She's fighting this weekend. She's Australian. And I look at her go on this like 5-6 fight win streak before she got signed. And then I see her get in the UFC and dominate everyone. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. Right. And I got to 4-0. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then we were talking about this the other day. I was like, she'd only had 5 or 6 pro fights before she got there, and she's proven that she clearly belongs there. But then we'd stop and take a deeper look. She's been doing MMA for a long time, 8 years, I think 7 or 8 years, and she had a long amateur career too. So I've only been doing it for 2 years. So maybe I need to take a step back and realize that these girls have had so much more mat time than me. So I need to do my time. I need to do more mat time. And I think if I do a few more years of that, then I'm going to hang with the best in the world. Right now, I think I hang with the bottom girls of the UFC. But I just need to do more time. And then I'm gonna when I do get into the UFC, then I'm gonna hang with the top girls. I'm gonna eventually one day fight for the world title. Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah. Yeah. I just need to, have a little more
Yeah.
patience, perhaps. Yeah, 2 years for MMA is not long. You need to.
But I don't think
put in
2
more
years
hours.
reflects it accurately either.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking you just started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you've been fighting for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that's always important. I think mixed martial arts it's more so just the component of, you know, in most cases, how strong is your ground game, but how well are you blending them all together?
Yeah.
And I always find it interesting when you get purists, you know, you get someone like Islam Makhachev that no matter where you put him in the cage, he's going to try and take you down and he's going to try and strangle you. Or wherever you put Connor in the cage, he's just going to be looking for a left hand straight down the middle or a check hook. Like there's just purists within the sport, and then you've got people that are just comfortable everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you identify yourself more as?
I always go back to what I'm comfortable with in times that I feel the pressure. So in my fight, I kind of went back to tie clinch and strike, even though I knew the plan was to grapple. While I aim to be like good at everything and well-rounded at everything, which is why I'm always competing in grappling tournaments as well, is to level up a bit. I think when you're being tested, you're going to go back to what you know and what you're comfortable with. So I'm always going to think of myself as a striker, but I'm aiming to be dangerous and capable everywhere. Yeah.
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 Yeah, you want to be like the Rubik's Cube that no one can solve.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I want to be able to do it all, but I know that if like times get tough, I will resort to what I'm most comfortable with, as most people will, which is striking, clenching, elbowing, kneeing, kicking, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some big fights coming up.
There are. Yes.
big
Yes.
fights.
There's like 4 big weekends coming up.
I
in a
know,
row.
right?
Yeah.
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, me too.
Edwards versus Usman 3. What do you think?
I think that Usman will win.
Really?
Yeah. I think that obviously you're not going to count Edwards out, but I think that I was listening to Usman's podcast the other day after he got knocked out. He's actually the most like, I've taken a lot from him on how he handles a loss. Like the way he's processed it all and his humility with it as well has just been, it's been inspirational. But I think that Usman comes back with a fire and comes back with no complacency and comes back to kill. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, the way Usman lost it as well is just so devastating to dominate, you know, at least 3 rounds of that fight.
Yep.
To dominate at least 3 rounds and be outscoring, outstriking, penetrating everything, but then you just love that underdog story in Leon Edwards
you do.
as well.
You love it. He deserves his time in his life.
And he's been hanging with the big boys forever.
Yeah.
He's got one of the like longest fight careers right now, and he hasn't had his moment yet, you know. So for him to finally hold that belt and to finally, you know, shine, you kind of you like the idea of new blood coming in.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just in love with the story of Leon Edwards.
And I hate hearing people say that it was like lucky.
No.
That guy's in the
That's C-U-N-T.
that guy's in the gym every day for hours practicing kicks, practicing, you know, practicing everything. You can't call it luck. He's been working on that kick his whole career has been working on kicks, and he's been
the way he
studying
set it up
so long. Yeah, you can't call it lucky.
People forget how clinical of a striker Leon Edwards really is. Like the guy's a sniper.
Yeah.
He just lines up his shot, waits, bang.
Yeah.
And he gets you.
Yeah.
I watched his fight recently, just to play it back. I watched his fight with Nate Diaz recently, and I was just like, it was the perfect matchup because you got Leon Edwards, who's very technical and tight in the pocket, and he's just waiting for his chances. Then you've got like the craziness
Slugger.
of Nate Diaz just coming at you like a zombie, just looking for angles, being very unorthodox, like trying to feint his way in, and it was amazing to watch. And even though Leon did win the fight, I feel like Nate won the moral victory, but it goes to show how far Leon's developed as well since that fight.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes from beating Usman. Like we say Usman's going to level up from this, but so is Edwards.
Yeah, of course.
So it's going to be so interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Is that next week?
I believe so.
Next week. Yeah. This week. Next week.
Is it this weekend?
Yeah, I think this
Sian,
weekend.
could you find out? Sian, are you there?
No, not this week. Yeah, it is. It's this weekend because it's in London.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, this weekend.
Okay.
Tunia's on this weekend. He's on, yeah.
Okay, so you're in Usman's corner. What advice are you giving him?
What advice do I give a world champion? Like, be yourself. Be you, because you obviously know what you're doing. Yeah. I don't know. What advice do you give? Because if you listen to him recount what happened in the last fight, he said that he had Edwards. He said he was setting him up to move his feet a certain way as they had practiced in the gym. He was setting him up. He knew what shot he had to land. It was the same one that he had landed in his last fight against Covington, I think.
Don't quiz me on this.
Yeah, I think he was saying it was the same shot that he landed in the prior fight, get them to move their feet one way and set them up for that finishing shot. And then next minute he woke up in the hospital, in the ambulance. That's how he recalls it. So, I mean, he was confident. He was like winning and he saw the finishing shot and then next thing he saw the ambulance. So,
I mean,
what do you say to do different?
Yeah, I did hear Usman say as well that like losing the belt was almost like a relief in the way because he had spent so much time at the top and always having to watch his back and people always trying to come after him. Like that pressure as a champion is different. You know, when you're a contender, you're more hungry. Like you want that thing that someone else has.
Yeah.
But once you have it, it's really interesting to see how different people deal with that pressure.
Yeah.
You know, that's a different fight in of itself that you don't understand until you hold the belt.
You hear Rose, Nama Yunus said the same thing as well. It's like a lot of pressure to hold that belt. It's a lot to have everyone coming after you all the time.
The crown weighs heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do hear that. But now he says that it's reignited his hunger and his passion, and he's got this whole list of like things he's going to do and double champ and yeah. So, I mean, losses reignite you or they crush you. Yeah, so I guess it's up to you what you're going to do with the loss.
And what about Edwards?
What about him?
Well, what advice would you give him if you're in his corner?
I was going to say I hope you get lucky again, but it wasn't luck. I just said it wasn't luck. I don't know. Hey, I don't know. Like they're well above me in their knowledge and experience. What advice could I give someone like that? But yeah, I guess you've just got to just keep working on those setup strikes. Like eventually over 25 minutes, something should appear.
Yeah, I think when you're going up against someone like Usman, you really have to dot your I's and cross your T's because any openings that you leave, he will capitalize on.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's just, I don't know. I'm obviously in no place to speak about this, but I feel like I would be working a lot on takedown defense.
Yeah.
I feel like Usman's going to come out with a very wrestling-centric fight this time.
Yeah.
Because he knows how dangerous Leon is on the feet. And that's not to say Usman isn't either. But his default, like you said before, that when you feel pressure, when you are in uncomfortable positions, you're just going to revert back to what you're comfortable with. Well, Usman's version of that is wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, he was a D1 state champion wrestler and he is always going to have the advantage there because he's been doing it for 15 years longer than what Leon has.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm Leon, I'm just...
Yeah. But then the first time you sign up to fight Usman, you're definitely working on that as well, you know?
True.
Like...
Yeah. What do you do,
can't
right?
know. I just don't know. But I can't
Which is what makes the fight so much more compelling.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see Usman get it back just because maybe because I've been listening to his podcasts and interviews so much recently. I developed this empathy with him.
Of course.
Yeah. But then I'm sure if I went and listened to more Leon Edwards, I'd develop the same thing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I love his attitude towards like someone so dominant. I love his ability to take that loss and accept it and give Leon Edwards his clout. And he said, what Leon Edwards did was amazing. You know, I'm the best in the world. And he just knocked me out. Like, yeah.
And no one saw it coming.
Yeah.
No, like even in the fight, everyone like, you know, Joe Rogan was there like, you know, like I think he's just resigning to a loss now.
Yeah.
You know, he's just resigning to a split decision loss. Yeah. And then...
That's why it's the most amazing sport.
Yeah, it's just, those moments, they just capture like the human spirit in ways that you can't find anywhere else. Last weekend that just passed, we had Peter Yan versus Marib. Now, Peter Yan's fall from grace has been one of the most tragic things that... You good, buddy? Has been one of the most tragic things that I've had to watch as a fight fan in a while. I mean, the guy was in the ropes to become champion up against Aldo, loses that, gets disqualified rather over an illegal knee, and then loses the rematch, and then since then has never looked the same.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think about the Peter Yan that versed Jose Aldo and pretty much rearranged his entire face and was just vicious and one of the most devastating strikers, that I really feel like that DQ against Aldo almost had him scared to take chances. He doesn't want to, like, any shot that might be a bit in the grey area, he just doesn't want to take anymore. And that's not to take any credit away from Marib, who, you know, absolutely dominated the fight.
That was amazing. As soon as I saw that in the first round, I was like, you can't do that for 5.
Yeah.
Oh, he did.
He did.
I think, how many takedowns was it? I have the stats on my phone.
You do?
Yeah.
You can pull it up if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, it was such an entertaining fight, and you know, you have to give Marib his roses where it's due, because he was put on the big stage against someone who was only a couple months ago in contendership for the belt, and then made him look like an absolute novice.
Yeah, 48 takedown attempts. He secured 11.
That's
But
insane.
who's shooting 48 times and not, like, you know, not fading from that? 48 times.
His knees must just be destroyed.
Yeah. Or even like 11 successful takedowns is out of 44. It's still not great. But like, to keep going, to keep trying, to know that eventually, like, if I just keep this up, it'll break him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was insane.
Against none other than Peter Yan.
Yeah.
That
with
you
the
know.
best takedown defense in, I think, 4th best takedown defense in UFC history. And you go in there with a plan to take him down? Like, what?
Yeah,
this is
right.
crazy. I got so into it. Yeah, I was mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since Marib has won the fight, he's kind of come out and said that he's not going to challenge Aldo for the belt. Have you heard about this?
I think they said it in the cage after. Yeah.
And because they have a close friendship, because they were training partners for a very long time. I'm curious to know, what do you think about that?
Well, I think what he said he was going to do is wait for Aldo to move up a division and then challenge for, and then fight for it. So you got to assume that at some point they've had this conversation, because it's a big fat elephant in the room, you know.
Yeah.
You've got the thing I want, but you're my teammate / coach. I think eventually you would have to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I imagine they're on the same page as each other with that. I imagine he'll move up and then...
Yeah, but what happens with Marib in the meantime? Because he's kind of the next contender to fight for the belt. So what's he go and do? Fight another contender?
That's true. Like, how long are you going to wait as well? How long are you willing to wait?
Yeah, and then is Marib just fighting Aldo's fights for him then?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
What's he ranked now? Is he ranked...
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. But
it
it makes you wonder, is he just going to hang out there and wait? Or will he keep fighting at the risk of losing and falling down the rankings?
Yeah, or winning, and then just the contenders are fighting amongst each other, and Aldo's got no fresh blood, right? I mean, that's Dana White's position.
Well, who's the next fight for Aldo, though? He fights Henry Cejudo next.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
In May.
That's going to be great.
I forgot about that. That's interesting.
That is very interesting. Because Henry Cejudo has one of the best ground games in that division.
Yeah.
Well, of all time, really.
And then if Henry wins, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe this is all depending on what happens in May. Maybe the path forward is dependent on whether Aldo wins or loses in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, what would you do in that situation, that someone that you come very close with and just, you know, you've trained with in the past is holding the belt and you're next in line with the belt? Like, what would you do?
It's interesting. I'm trying to imagine like what sort of closeness you are as well. I think at some point, like if that person, if the other strawweight girl, say in my situation, is not planning on moving up or down, I feel like eventually, like, you have to fight, you know? It makes things difficult as to whereas you're going to do your camp and who's going to be in what corner and all that sort of stuff. But what are you just going to stay in the shadows forever because your friend has what you want? I don't know. I feel like also if I was in the same situation, I was at the top and my training partner wanted my spot, I don't take that personally. Like, obviously, this is a career. This is more money. This is more glory. This is like the future that obviously everyone wants. So I don't think I'd put too much personal investment into it. It'd be weird for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I'm just imagining, for example, if Katie Rose ever decided to become a UFC fighter.
Okay, well, there's about 10 kilos between me and Katie Rose, so that's never happening. But yeah, I think I did have a training partner for a while who I was the same size as. And we were always competing on the same shows, same this, that. Like, we'd move around 2 or 3 kilos. Like, you have this one and I have that one. And we're always compromising. And honestly, it did create some tension sometimes. It did create this, like, competitiveness. She doesn't fight anymore, but at the time it definitely did create a bit of a weird, like, when you start out, you're friends and you're encouraging each other and I'll do this, you do that, you do this, I'll do that, I'll compromise here, there. But if you're at the top of the world, at the pinnacle of the sport, who's going to compromise?
Yeah.
You know? It's the one thing you're both working towards.
Because, like, in the fight game, especially in those elite levels, every part of the fight is a fight. The press conferences are a fight.
Yeah.
The weigh-ins are a fight. The training camps are a fight. The contract negotiations are a fight. You know, every element of it is very weighted and very calculated. That's why you don't like that. You see that especially in boxing. Like, in boxing, you don't see the top heavyweights clash with each other a lot because they all have like these very intricate, you know, contract negotiations and hydration clauses and sponsorship deals and money splits and pay-per-views and like especially in boxing, it's a lot dirtier in that sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fight itself, but it's everything surrounding the fight.
I think you'll notice a lot in boxing, until they get to the top, the best never really fight the best. Not so much in MMA.
No.
I think you're kind of, as you saw with me and Josephine, I think me and Josephine are the best strawweights outside of the UFC. And we're fighting each other. You know, we're not getting our own 0 and 5s flown in from somewhere to make us look better. Like, I think MMA is very different in that way. And Muay Thai too. I think Muay Thai, you're always fighting the best to become the best.
Well, I feel like Muay Thai is a bit different in the sense that the O's on Muay Thai records aren't really, you know, cherished the same way as what they are in boxing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So MMA is probably the hardest then because your O's are noted, but you've also got to go fight the hardest. So, yeah, it's the hardest sport in the world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to be a sucker for punishment for it.
Honestly, it's true. There's something wrong with all of us. It's true. I saw
you put up a photo post fight on, I think it was like I think you did like an Instagram video or something. You were cut up.
Yeah. No cuts. I wasn't cut, but as in bruised.
Up,
yeah, I was bruised up. Thing is, with those little gloves, as soon as you get touched, you're going to mark up. So it probably looks worse than it really feels because the glove is so small. So where you might like guard a punch, part of that punch is going to touch you.
Yeah.
And it's going to mark up straight away. Yeah, like I said, biggest problem was my ear, getting hit in the ear.
Do you want to show?
Yeah, it's not so bad now. But it had closed all the way up. I'm not sure if from grappling or from getting hit, but it had closed all the way up and I felt that as soon as the fight ended. So that's that was my biggest thing. But yeah, those tiny gloves, there's nothing on them. They will mark you up straight away. Yeah.
I recently sparred someone in 4-ounce gloves and I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
I've always used, I think, 12s. Yeah, I'd always use 12s, and so that transition from 12s to 4s was like, oh, this is a very different game.
Yeah, you're not going to stand there and double guard.
No.
No, you're out of there. Yeah, you're out of there.
I tried the first time and it just went straight through the middle. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Or even if you try and like parry out the front, it'll come around the side and get you so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're crazy, those gloves. And you don't really spar in them either. Like the ones we fight in, we never spar in.
No.
It's not like you can practice taking that kind of shot as well. Like you spar in like I always spar in 16s as far as hard striking. So sometimes you think that you can either take a shot or block a shot, and then once you're in that cage with those little ones, you really realize that you can't. I got rocked once in that fight as well with a left hook, and you just don't realize how much. I've never been rocked in any striking fights or anything, but once those little gloves change, gets ya. Yeah.
Was that in the Josephine fight?
Yeah.
When were you rocked?
I got rocked once with a left hook. We were both exchanging. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't bad. It was just like the room kind of spins for a second. Yeah.
And like, how do you compose yourself again? Because I imagine, like, you know, for a lot of people listening or watching this, they haven't been rocked before, so they don't even know what that feels like.
Yeah. Well, in the exchange, it was quite a few back and forth punches. I think we had both rocked each other.
Oh,
so
okay.
we both took this kind of step back.
Right.
So none of us were in range to attack each other. And I think because both of us were a little stunned, no one pressed forward. So we both got like a second to, recover. Yeah, it's very like, I think you'll only see it if you look for it. But I can see it in the tape when it happens. It's not so bad. Like I've never been to the point where I've like blacked out or fallen down or something like that. But this is just a little, it doesn't hurt because you don't see it and you don't feel it, but you just see the room go in all these funky directions.
It's kind of like being drunk.
It's kind of like, actually. You know when you start drinking and you first go sit down and when you go to get up? Yeah, the room kind of, that's what it's like.
It's like, whoa, we're like, on this level.
Whoa. Yeah, that's what it's like.
So when you're like sparring in your gym and you're, you know, going up against training partners, like what intensity do you take it to? Because obviously, you know, especially in a training camp for a fight, you want to get to the point where you're sharp and you're fit and you're ready to go, but you don't want to be taking on unnecessary brain damage right before you go into a war with one of the toughest opponents you'll ever face.
Yeah. A lot of my sparring is like light technical sparring, so no one's really hitting each other anyway. And then a couple times a week we bring in a sparring partner to replicate the fight. So maybe last fight camp we were doing it twice a week. Okay. So we do our 3-5s with the headgear and our pads and our little gloves. Again, they're not the little ones you fight in; they're like the training little ones, which are
they're like a bit fluffier.
Yeah, they're a bit. Yeah, there's more padding on the front. And we'll go hard, and it's against someone that can go like fast paced and replicate like fight intensity, but not hurt you. Right. Yeah. So it's a hand selected person that we've been bringing in. Like I said, we had Dan who's been at ATT, and then I've got Kai who trains at VT1, and we'll replicate the fight and we'll go hard, but it's someone you trust. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that relationship between sparring partners must be so important.
Yeah. You can't be in like a room of open sparring and go hard. Like there's too many people. You knock things. It's not realistic if you're not in the setting as well, where you have to stay within a certain space. You just got to make it as real as possible and replicate like the fight in a safe and we normally do it privately, so no one else there, just me and whoever I'm sparring and my coach. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, that's a lot of information that you don't want out to the world a couple of weeks before you go out. Yeah. But also, like, you don't know the people coming up under you, and that's not to throw any shade towards your gym or anything like that, but someone could be looking at that and going, I'm pretty close to her level. Like, you know, that does happen.
Okay, you know what was happening in the beginning is it doesn't happen anymore because I only spar with select people and I only roll with select people. People would come in and be like, it's Jacinta, the professional fighter. Let me see how I hang with her. Yeah. Even if it's a guy. Like they'll be like, I landed all these shots on Jacinta, the professional fighter. Yeah. And that's just like, it's more people that have never fought or, you know, they'll throw stupid stuff, but they'll throw it hard. So it'll work. So I had a little bit of that problem in the beginning, but now, yeah, I've just got my little safe group of people that I spar with all the time, and it's perfect.
Is it hard to match up body types as well?
Yeah, it is, because there's no, like, all my sparring is done with guys, so it's very different moving with males to females.
Of
very
course.
Different. Yeah. So as much as you try and replicate it, it's never actually going to be quite the same. Yeah. But I've got like Kai from VT1 has done 4 fight camps with me now.
Okay.
He's done the MMA ones with me, and he did the K1 with me as well. And he's just like, we'll show him a video of what we're preparing for and tell him what we're trying to do, and he replicates that very well.
Yeah. It's almost a skill set in itself, right? Like to see a person's fight style and go, oh, okay, like they do this, they do that, like these are their tells. You know, like fighting in a style of Jose Aldo is very different in fighting a style of Francis Ngannou, which is very different in fighting in a style of Valentina Shevchenko, you know? Yeah.
So we showed, so it was Dan and Kai for this last camp. We showed them the video, like a video of her, how she moves. She kind of like comes forward, lots of like hands in combination. She doesn't back up much. Yeah. And they were able to replicate that. So that's not how they would fight, but they're replicating that kind of movement for me. Yeah. So I'm lucky to have people like that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think it's again, it's just a safety thing. Like you don't want to be experiencing like extreme CTE before, one of the biggest fights ever. But like one place you're guaranteed to get CTE is Slap Championship.
Don't ask me any questions about it because I don't know. I don't pay attention. It comes up on my feed because UFC
all the time.
Post it.
All the time.
Yeah, so, and I swipe straight past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found myself in like a little rabbit hole.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Of Slap Championship. And I was just like, this is like sad.
Yeah. Not only is it not sport, but it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand there's probably a lot of money in it, but to me it's stupid.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't pay attention.
I'm yet to find someone that goes, hey, bro, let's switch the Slap Championship this weekend.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly know nothing about it. I will not allow myself to go down that rabbit hole.
So we won't see you on the Slap Championship 2024?
No. It always comes up because, UFC like collaborate with them. And then so if UFC posts, it comes up on UFC's thingy. And
the only reason they did that was because so many people were blocking the original.
I thought so. Yeah. Like if you don't want to look at it, here it is. So I'm not interested at all.
Yeah. I think most of the MMA community, at least the one that I know anyways, kind of echo that.
Yeah. It's kind of thing that I feel like all these like dumb drunk people will sit down and watch and be like, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's not martial arts.
It's probably good for like bars and stuff, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it won't catch me watching it.
No.
Never.
No, absolutely not. No. So future plans, you're going to take a couple weeks off, get back into sparring and then decide where to go from there.
Yeah, so there's a couple changes that we need to make with my team and the way I prepare, which we've identified now, which is probably important that we identified now. Like while I have a lot of training partners and coaches I can train with, everything is done with one coach. So I do my striking, jiu-jitsu, wrestling is all done with Alex, who is the owner of Carrioti. And what we realized this time around is it's kind of it's too much to put on one coach. You need other coaches. You need your wrestling input and you need your boxing input. You need the right minds. You need a team for MMA. You need like support and you need a team. It takes too much from one person. You need different viewpoints as well. So we've come to that realization this time round. So just little things like we work with, I don't know if you know Justin Holland, he's a Commonwealth wrestler, so we need to bring him back in. Yeah,
he used to work at UFC Wetherill Park.
Yeah. So we need to bring him back into work.
I remember him.
Oh, he's insane. Yeah. He's so small, so when you lock up with, like when you see him, you're like, oh, like shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
And then you lock up with him and you just feel this like strength. Like you just feel like this.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's insane. But then he moves like water. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think I survived 2 wrestling sessions with him and I was like, I'm done. Like,
yeah. He's amazing. We've trained with him and his sister Carissa as well.
Okay, I haven't met his sister.
Both insane. And then there's the cousin Jaden. I've never trained with the cousin, but I think he's bigger. He's quite a bit bigger. So we just need to we need to have a team and we need help. It can't just be me and one coach.
Yeah.
It's a lot to put on someone, especially someone that is also running every single other thing in the business as well. So we've got also Anthony from Grange who's doing my boxing with me now. We realised we need to fix my feet a little bit, the way I move my feet. Just little things that even after you win, you notice these little things that need improving. We're going to change a little bit around with the way I train and where I train at certain times. We're going to fight again soon. Yeah, I'm going to finish unloading and I'm looking within because like you have a deep like look at yourself when you lose as well. It causes you to address like a lot of things that maybe you were just refusing to address before. So I'm going to take another week or 2 to get all this sorted and then we're going to fight again before June.
Yeah, it tends to be like the things that you're uncomfortable with and the things that you don't want to address that you kind of have to.
Yeah, and when you're winning all the time, you're like, why do I need to address anything? What I'm doing is working. And then, when you lose, you got to take a deeper look.
The fire, lean into the discomfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so like tough to say to you because like I said, any female fighter in Australia that goes into a cage against you is in for a long night or a short one, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And I noticed you're doing your strength and con at Ethos. Is that still the case?
Yes, I'm going to be going back to Ethos. I haven't gone yet. And this brings me back to one of my points is I feel like in the last camp with all the work I was doing, I but I put aside everything that I liked doing. Like Ethos is great and everyone's there is great, but in general, I don't particularly like lifting. It's just how I've always been. I do it because I feel like I have to, but I don't particularly love lifting. So at the moment, I've been like choosing to go swim instead. Like, I used to love swimming. I used to love running, cycling. I didn't do any of that. I used to love yoga. I stopped doing everything that I like enjoyed doing for the sake of enjoyment. I stopped doing recovery. I stopped doing everything besides like live hard work. And I think that took a toll as well.
Of course, especially on the recovery end.
Yeah, but on your mind as well. Like it's get up, I got to go spar this person. Then I'm going to come home and eat and then I'm going to go spar this person. And then I stopped doing anything I enjoyed. So I'm trying to like get back to that a little bit now. Yeah.
And like there's compounding effects as well, right? Because if you do enjoy the swimming and if you do enjoy the running, you're actually getting like more of a cardio output from that than anything else, right? Like,
and that's actually where I credit a lot of I think I have great cardio. That's where I credit a lot of my cardio to in the past is I used to be cross country runner. I used to like be on the state swimming team and I stopped doing all that just because I felt like I didn't have time for that. But I think I need to make time for like these kind of things as well.
Yeah. What, just to kind of circle back to the Ethos thing though, what kind of strength and con were you doing there? I'm sure you've been asked this question a gazillion times.
No. We do, it changes throughout the progress of the camp. Like whether you're at 7 weeks out or whether you're like 3 weeks out, it'll change. So it'll change from like heavy lifts and static holds to then explosive work. And the lifts kind of get lighter as you get closer to your fight and you become more explosive and work a lot more dynamic movement as well.
Right.
So I'm going to be like going back to that for the next camp. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've got one of the best strength and con programs in Australia for fighters. Like it seems very detailed. It seems very specific.
Yeah. The way they've like set it up is good too. Like you've got all these athletes there together. That you kind of get to exchange experiences and exchange stories and see you get to like there's a lot of high level athletes there too, so I get to like pick their brain on occasion and like Cohen and you got Tyson Pedro there, Arlene, just to pick their brain, especially like because everyone loses, so to pick their brain when they've lost and then to see how they've moved on and come back from that has been very interesting as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. In the fight game, we put so much weight on a loss, right?
Yeah.
Like in any other sport, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, if you lose a rugby match, it's like, okay, well, we're back at it next week. But I guess because you can't physically fight so frequently, so you only, you know, in a good year, you get 4 opportunities to fight.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. Like it's back-to-back camps essentially.
Yep. And they say you're only as good as your last fight. So when you're hanging on to a loss, it's kind of like,
Yeah, it weighs down.
yeah.
How do you approach your recovery? Like, are you in ice baths? Are you saunaing? Are you straight? Like, what's your recovery process?
Well, like I said last camp, I stopped it because I felt like I didn't have it's not that I felt like I didn't have any time. And then the times I did have that I wasn't at training, I was out dead asleep because I was so exhausted. But previously, yeah, I was big on like the saunas and the yoga and going to stretching sessions and stuff like that. And I was doing physio every week. And I stopped all of that this time. I'm not saying that's why I lost, but I think it's a very important aspect that I sacrificed last time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the dividends that you get from recovery and stretching and yoga and sauna are, you know, you don't see them in the moment, but they stack up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So my dietitian will make us do heat acclimation leading up to the fight. So you go into the sauna to get your body used to heat. And I used to dread that, but I do it because...
For how long?
So when you're first starting off, you aim for like 2 10-minute sessions.
Okay.
Do that for a week, then move to 2
which is pretty
13-minute
doable.
sessions. Yeah. And just like see how much you can build up. I'm at the point now where I'll do like 2 20-minute sessions.
Okay.
I can do more. It's just that I get bored in there. So once I've done my 220, I'm good. But now I don't have a fight. I'm not trying to lose any weight and I'm still doing it. And I feel so much better.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think sauna is amazing for like, I'm still training a lot at the moment. So getting like the tightness and flexibility and
reduces inflammation.
And inflammation. Yeah. And then I go do like a cold plunge from the sauna. I
Those
think these
cold
things,
plunges are brutal,
I always hear everyone talk about recovery, but like this time I thought I had too much work to do. I don't have time for recovery. And I don't think that was the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But I have to admit, your flexibility is quite remarkable. I think we saw you do like a half split in the middle of your fight.
Yeah, that was weird. Hey, I was so confused. I was like,
she was trying to land a leg lock on you.
Yeah, I
and
think
you just landed
the
up
aim
in
was a knee bar. I think was the aim, but was not in any form or shape a knee bar. But yeah, it was just an awkward position. It was just it was weird. I was like, just kind of stuck there. But I was like, I'm not going to tap from this. Like,
I think it kind of helped you in a way, like to be able to not give the position because you were in such like an awkward other position. I don't know. I feel like it helped you.
Yeah, I was just like, let it go. Like, let me out and let's keep fighting because I was weird. Like my foot was held there. And then the ref came up to us and he told her to get her fingers out of her gloves. So she was like obviously holding it illegally. And then when she let go, I could get out. But yeah, that was no issue. I was just I felt like a bit like awkward. I was like, oh, like this probably looks weird. I was like, I don't know what you're doing, but I think the idea in that exchange was grab something, pull it and hope it works.
Yeah,
and
right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fun, Jacinta.
Always fun.
Always fun. Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to push? Where should people follow you? Join your story?
I think Instagram is the place to go to. So my name now is Jacinta _Austin. The gym is Carrioti MMA Hornsby. And we're actually just with all the new faces and development that's coming around MMA at the moment, we're actually just starting a beginners MMA program for the first time as well. That's something that's...
Come check it out.
Yeah, come check it out. Saturdays, 11 a.m, Hornsby. Yeah, if you wanted to learn MMA.
Have you lost the Juggernaut now? Is that not part of your title anymore?
It was never my Instagram handle.
Oh, okay.
It's in the bio, but it was never my my handle. My handle was Jacinta Jade, and then everyone kept saying that they couldn't find or they'd put it on my documents. They thought my last name was Jade. And then that was causing confusion with travel I don't know, from Instagram somehow. So we were like, all right, fix your name. Everyone kept calling my surname Jade. And we were like, my surname
I think the
Jade.
first time we met, I called you Jacinta Jade as well.
Yeah, or people were just calling me Jade, not even Jacinta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so we're like, all right, let's fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure now people have your name down pat.
Yes.
They know you very well. In my opinion, you are the best female fighter in Australia.
Thank you.
And, unfortunately, these local girls just got some catching up to do. It is what it is. I really look forward to seeing you fight soon. I hope it is sooner rather than later. But, of course, we want you to be healthy, fit, in the right mindset to get back on that winning streak of yours.
Yeah. I'll see you at the gym tonight.
Yes, let's do it. Yes. See you guys. Thank you. Remember to subscribe.